Hello, kia ora. Ko ngā mihi aroha ki taku whānau Māori me ako hoa Māori I ane wā uua mā tātou katoa. Kia ora tātou. My name is Barbara Ewing. I'm an actress and a writer, and I have written 9 novels, mostly historical. They've been translated into 12 languages. And my 10th book, 1 Minute Crying Time, was to have been published in early April 2020, and due to circumstances beyond all our control, it is not being published until a month later. And so I thought I'd come and say hello and tell you a little bit about 1 Minute Crying Time. This is my only non-fiction book, and it is going to be, there will never be another non-fiction book written by me, because I'm a historical writer. If I find papers or letters or things that are just so exciting, maybe somebody hasn't ever seen them before, I've done that, or some information that I think I can use in a very good way, those exciting things are not exciting when it's your own book about times that you lived in and about you, set in the 1950s. I like to be able to change the story if I want to, and you can't do that if you've written a non-fiction book and you want it to be truthful. On the 1st of January 1951, I, aged 11, started writing my first diary entry, and I wrote day by day by day by day for years and years and years. And then it turned into a journal, and I kept journals for another years and years and years and years and years. And I have many notebooks and little Collins diaries and great big exercise books full of writing. But now that I'm in my dotage, I decided that I needed to get rid of all these old things, and so I decided to wrap them up and put them in parcels. And some friends of mine in Wiltshire in England have a big garden, and we're going to make a bonfire and put all the diaries in there, which we will still do. But I made the mistake of just looking at some of the very early 1950s entries, and I sure found the 1950s. It's not exactly as I remember at all, and it's not what other people might remember either, but I knew I had found history, and so I wrote this book, 1 Minute Crying Time. People who haven't read it ask me about the title. What does that mean? They say 1 minute crying time. And I say, at the beginning of the book, there's just a small introduction. So I'll finish this conversation with you by telling you what 1 minute crying time means. In New Zealand, in the 1950s, it was very expensive to make a telephone call from one part of the country to another. Toll calls, we called them. And the price of making a telephone call to another country in those years was prohibitive. It cost £1 per minute when I first arrived in London to telephone to, or to be telephoned from, New Zealand. And I was living on about £5 per week. I was a student at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, and my £5 per week had to cover rent and board and tube fares and tomato soup for lunch. So I kept in touch with friends and family by letter, and got into the habit of sticking their photographs on the walls of wherever I was living. But one of the New Zealand telephone operators I had got to know earlier when I was sent away to the South Island, a euphemism in those days for pregnant, unmarried girls being dealt with, although in this case I was simply being sent away. to the South Island, told me that the New Zealand operators for overseas calls, who connected calls manually in those long ago days, had to stay on the line to make sure the connection was not lost. An agreement had to be made with the operator beforehand as to how long the call would be. It was conventionally 3 minutes. And as these expensive phone calls were almost always made only when it was a matter of life or death or heartbreak, the listening New Zealand operators, who had to interrupt, say, "I'm sorry, but your time is up," were informally permitted to allow, as well as the 3 minutes, 1 minute crying time. So me and my book are waiting here in Auckland, and we hope to emerge sometime before too long and to meet up with some of you in person. So, kia ora, me kia ora tātou katoa.